Hey, it's Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And today we are covering not a board game, but an RPG. More specifically, though, an RPG with a lot of board game elements. This is going to be Tanares RPG 5e, plus a lot of board games and or miniatures. There's a lot here for everything. If you are someone who has already dived into Tanares Adventures, or alternatively, if you are someone who is interested in diving down into Tanares Adventures, in Arena of the Contest, Tanares Adventures, then this is something worth paying attention to. It's not purely a RPG campaign, although it is an RPG campaign as well. In fact, I'd argue it's primarily an RPG campaign, but for myself, someone who's more of a board gamer and more of a, I'm not in a rush to dabble in RPGs, I'm primarily in this for the board game. So I'm primarily looking at all the miniatures, the content, the extras for Arena of the Contest, for Tanares Adventures, for what they have already and what they are slowly unlocking. So timestamps down below to jump to any particular section, because you may or may not be interested in any one section. And I will say, if you are an RPG person watching this video, then apologies in advance for the lack of nuance and depth I'll be able to provide to those elements of the campaign. I can read, I'm confident there, but past reading the campaign, past seeing what they have, I don't know enough about the RPG world. I don't know enough about 5e, about how the experiences work to be able to talk confidently about any of that. So I'll just talk about it, but less confidently. So let's go ahead into this. We are at over $1 million by the time you watch this. I mean, it's $965 by the time I'm looking at this. This is day one. Day one, we are at $965,000. Granted, I thought it would be higher, but over $1 million I'll still take. Now, it's no Avatar over here. We're at $8 million, although technically not day one, but nonetheless, if you're getting the feeling that RPGs are slowly taking over the Kickstarter scene, you're definitely not wrong. There is a huge RPG community out there. If you're an RPG person, you already know this, and if you're a board gamer, then you either should know about it, or maybe we'll just go back to our board game Kickstarters. Either way is fine. But Tanares RPG is going to be taking the world of Arena of the Contest and putting it into RPG form using the 5e framework. So it's going to be utilizing all the existing frameworks, the books, just adding new classes, new characters, new worlds, all of that. But along the way, they have miniatures for RPG players who want them, as well as board game content and relevant additions to your Arena of the Contest game. So if you're someone who has Arena of the Contest and wants Arena of the Contest and wants or has Tanares Adventures coming and you want more content, then this is a good opportunity to jump in there as well. Now, it's going to be a whole lot of participating writers. This is more of an RPG thing, to bring in guest writers, to bring in people who are going to be part of your world. Now I want to kind of burst into the Little Mermaid song there. But even if you're just on the board game side, you've probably seen this with Bardsung. When Steamforged Games did Bardsung, they did the same thing. They brought in writers to show off, like, oh hey, we're going to guest star this writer and that writer. And sadly, I didn't know most of them then either, and I don't know most of them here. Now I recognize the things they've been involved with. We have Ed Greenwood, who is involved with the Forgotten Realms from D&D. We have Bruce Naismith from Skyrim, Fallout, from all those worlds. So if you're a video gamer, you've probably seen some of what he's dabbled in over there. We have Amy Vorpal from Geek and Sundry, Candlekeep Mysteries, Fizban Treasury of Dragons. We have Skip Williams, who is part of Gygax AD&D, TSR Wizards, the Dragon Magazines. They're bolding all the awards. It makes my job much easier. We have Rich Redmond from Monster Manual, Savage Species, Deities and Demigods, Defenders of the Faith. We have Anthony Pryor from Sword and Sorcery's Scarred Lands, Fastest Battletech, with Song of Ice and Fire, Flash Gordon, Cthulhu Mythos, Shane Hensley from Savage World, TSR and White Wolf, and Robert Schwab from the 3 core 5e rulebooks, as well as a whole bunch of other Warhammer, this, that, the other. A lot of, well, popular names for those who actually follow most of those things. Sadly, I don't. Is going to be involved in the campaign. This is going to be more on the RPG side. Now, before we go further, let's talk about the free stuff, although not really by the time you're watching this video. You see, I've already mentioned this in like 3 videos by now, so if you follow my channel, you may have seen me give you a heads up, a warning that this is going to be the case. Unfortunately, if you're watching this video today, it may be too late to jump in on this, which is the free today only option to get that giant dragon for free. Although, granted, it might affect your shipping costs, but that giant dragon is going to be free instead of $29 for a day one only. It says today only. It doesn't say 24 hours. Maybe they mean 24 hours. I'm guessing they mean today only. I wish campaigns, and I've talked about this in the past, I wish campaigns wouldn't do day one early birds. I think that's such a shame. I think it doesn't give people the time to jump in. You could have any single thing you could forget for a day. You could not be online for a day. You could be gone for a day. I think a single day for early birds is just not enough time, especially for a campaign that's running 30 days. I think 48 hours should be the minimum amount of time for an early bird. Arguably 72. Yes, you want that day one push, but you'll get that day one push. You won't lose out on it. I think giving people 48 hours, or in the case of today only, not even 24 hours, I think it's a shame, and I think companies should arguably give more. Granted, I'm talking about this from the stance of the biases and the reasons for early birds that I see, and not the reasons necessarily on their end as to why they may have done today only. But yeah, I think today's only is a shame. I think you're going to have a lot of people who show up day two wanting in on that ridiculously awesome early bird and missing out. Now, the good news, if you are someone watching this video who feels like you're missing out, there are still some things that are going to be available, and those are going to be available for 48 days left. This is going to be the giveaway that they are running. This is going to be the giveaway that they're running for the campaign, where they're going to be giving you a whole bunch of stuff. More specifically, they're giving you the complete 5e book collection. That's absolutely everything over there. They're going to be giving you the Tanares RPG for 5e, the campaign we're looking at now, as well as choose any 3 board games. So yes, I'll take one copy of Kingdom Death Monster, a copy of Gloomhaven, and I don't know, what's Nemesis? Will they buy Nemesis? They'll probably just give me the retail version. All the caveats, they have terms and conditions. The point is, you'll get a lot of stuff in this giveaway, and in order to get that, you're going to first have to visit the Kickstarter page, and then visit this page over here, and then enter your email, which will then unlock a bunch of other options, such as subscribing to various YouTube channels, or other ways you can unlock these 859 entries. Don't worry, that's not 859 different things you have to do. Many of the things will give you like, hey, 450 entries in one shot. So the point's just you can get chances to enter and win this contest for one of the most amazing giveaways I've seen from anything in recent history. It's a lot of stuff is really the point. So even if you miss that day one dragon, that's at least something you can get your hands on. But with that said, let's go ahead and talk more about this campaign. And let's talk about the pledge levels, what you're getting over here. And it's primarily going to be divided into 3 main ways. And they present this as such. They do a great job breaking down the pledge levels as far as what you might want and why you might want it. To begin with, they're going to have the RPG elements. And there are multiple pledge levels there. We'll go over the pledge levels soon enough. But it's going to be the RPG elements. 3 different core books. They'll give you a whole bunch of things. Characters, accessories, character handbooks, all these different things you can dive into there. Then we're going to have board game elements, which are going to be miniatures, cards, bosses, all these other things to fold into the world of Tanares. And then there's just miniatures only if you just want miniatures, and or maybe you want RPG plus miniatures. So it's kind of a RPG, miniatures for the board game, and or some sort of hybrid option. A variety of pledge levels to get what you want, plus of course build out and bundle your own set of things. So the pledge tiers over here. Why pledge now? I love it when campaigns do this. Get it cheaper. We will never offer these rewards for a lower price. Discounts are even greater in bigger pledge tiers. Dragori gifts its returning backers forever, and that's true. We're going to talk about that shortly. Dragori does gift its returning backers. We have Get More, help unlock stretch goals. Now, once you hit that $1 million line, these stretch goals for the most part are going to be pre-programmed. I'm not saying there's not some degree of give or take as we unlock things, but stretch goals are going to be part of the process, the ride that we're all on together. As a backer, you'll be in the front row to receive news, all those things. We'll support it with expansions. That's definitely true because, I mean, Dragori Games has only ever done Tanares content. This is their 3rd Kickstarter. They've done a lot of money between the Kickstarters, between the pledge managers. They have done a lot of money around their games, and it's all Tanares focused, so they're definitely supporting their line, their passion project. Get it sooner, which is true. Kickstarter exclusive will not go to retail. Even the rest may never go to retail, which again, true so far. We haven't really seen a retail presence for Arena of the Contest, at least not yet. But even if it does, you'll be first in line to receive it. Get it better and get involved. So again, these are all things you can determine for yourself which one of those you value, but they give you the reasons pretty clear and simple. You know, cheaper than now than it'll ever be again, Kickstarter exclusives, getting it earlier, being involved, all those things. And of course, they didn't say it, but also supporting the company as always. Now from there we go into the pledge levels where we have nice handy dandy graphics. We also have the sidebar over here, and then we'll go through their chart because they do an excellent job with their chart. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, what should I get, what should I not get? Well, their chart's going to do a great job going through that, but I'll walk through that as well. To begin with, at $25 you get 1 digital book. You can get one of the main campaign books, the campaign source book, the Player's Guide to Tanares, or the Adventures in the Realm of Madness. And that's going to be digital only, so $25 gets you a digital copy of one of those. For $50, twice that price, we're going to get a single hardcover copy plus the associated PDF of, again, any one of those books. For $69, you're going to get all the digital books and files, the various guides, the receive all books, all with more than 1,000 pages, all this stuff over here in digital files over here. I think they actually cover a bit more. So if you look over here, you'll see all the various things you get over here. If I stop, hovering over it, you'll see PDFs, Madwalker Playbook, Elementus, all those different things. So the main books plus additional content. At $129, we get to the Essential Kit RPG. This is going to be giving you hardcover copies of all the stuff, plus a slipcase, plus a Game Master screen, plus maps. So it's going to be basically all the RPG content you need for the game, and there is going to be a solo mode. We'll touch upon that separately. It's a separate optional buy, but if you want to dive into the RPG world as some sort of solo player, diving into it without a Dungeon Master, just experiencing it, just going through it, they do have an add-on for that as well, and that is something that's tempting to me as someone who doesn't do the full role-playing experience. I am tempted to try to dive into an RPG from the aspect, the mindset of a solo player, seeing whether it feels more board game adjacent, but that's something I'll have to explore and figure out because I have no idea what I'm signing up for. Then from there we have over here, and then over here we have Free Today, and then the Golden Dragon of Time. That's going to be the Free Today option, and then the Classes Pack, Kickstarter exclusive as well, add on all that. That's going to be the Essentials Pack. At $179, you're going to get the Miniatures Pack. Now this is what you're going to be looking at primarily if you are board gaming focused. If you are primarily a board gamer and or just want miniatures and don't care about anything else, this is the main pledge level for you. It's not a small amount of money at all, but it's going to be giving you the 6 things you see on the screen. We'll go through each of those as we cover them, but again, it's going to be the Penumbral Pack, the Villain Pack, Scenario Pack, the Golden Dragon, the Character Pack, and the Classes Pack. Those 6 things over there. The Super Kit is going to be $249, saving $184 of buying it all separately. That's going to give you basically everything you can see. And by separately, it doesn't mean pledge levels. A little tricky the way that's done. It's literally if you bought every single thing separately, that's where you'd see that full pledge amount. But the Super Kit is going to be $249 plus shipping and all that. And by the way, in terms of that is going to be charged in any country that is eligible for it, so unfortunately that's not going to be covered for you there. And we're going to have, again, all the stuff just all bundled together, just those 2 main pledge levels together as one. And just price point wise, $249 is effectively giving you the $179 and the $129 all together as one. So it is giving you a discount if you were to otherwise buy those 2 separately. And then from there we have the Board Games Bundle. This is where if you haven't actually backed Tanares Adventures, if you haven't backed Arena of the Contest, and if you haven't dived into this is where you can start getting all the content that you otherwise missed. Now, Arena of the Contest is one of my favorite games. I have a lot of favorite games, but it's one of my favorite games for sure. It's in my, I think it was in my top 20 2 years ago. Dropped a little bit out due to lack of play last year, but it's in my top 50 games of all time, and it's one that only rises every single time I get it to the table. I have a review on it, one of the first videos I did on the channel, so bear with me in terms of the terrible audio quality and the lack of any focus or concentration whatsoever in my review, but I do have a review if you want to see that. I'll probably get some more content out in it at some point. But either way, this is going to be the Board Games Bundle that gives you all of that. And then we start diving into the individual aspects of those things. So we have the pledge levels, and then we're going to go into the various books, all that stuff. And again, if you're a board game player and you want to dive into RPGs, this might be a good way for you to do so. Between the combination of the solo-esque aspect of being able to jump into it that way, that's where I plan on diving into it. It also might have a degree of familiarity if you are someone who has played the Arena of the Contest. And now it's not just an RPG, it's I get to experience Arena of the Contest in a different way. It might be a good way to blend into the scene, which may or may not be something you're interested in, because I'm tempted but also unsure. I have plenty of board games I'm already not playing. Do I want to sign up for a whole new genre of things that I don't play? When I say it that way, the answer seems kind of obvious, but I'm still going to go ahead and try the solo mode. Then we have over here, it's going to be some breakdowns on new to Kickstarter, all of that over there, and this is the pledge breakdown that I wanted to go over because I think they did a great job with it. Now, the first thing you want to pay attention to is the color of anything you're looking at. Anything that's black over here is going to be an RPG add-on. Anything that's green is going to be board game adjacent, and anything that's red is a cosmetic add-on. So you can see over here, we have black, we have green, we have red, all those things showing you what's included in every single pledge level, so it's pretty clear. As you can see over here, the Essential Kit is going to basically be almost all RPG things, with the Classes Pack that's going to be also board game related. At the Miniatures and Cars levels, we're going to get all the green things, although if you want the Gold Dragon, that's going to be day one. And then, of course, we have all these board games you can buy separately that you can add. They're not in their own pledge level, although they actually are in the board game bundle if you want that. And then the Super Kit's going to give you all of that. Now, you want to pay attention to these 5 things over here, because we, or at least myself, have the tendency to look at a campaign and say, well, I got the all-in pledge, so I'm getting everything, right? Well, mostly. If you want a little clarity, a little very easy understanding of what you are and are not getting, the things you're going to want to pay attention to is where your check marks are. If you back the Super Kit, you still need to pay attention to A, Are you getting the gold dragon, or do you have to buy that separately? And B, do you want the board games? And C, do you want that solo-less adventure, the GM-less adventure pack? That solo mode is going to cost you an additional $40 to dive into this world. And then if you want the Painted Dragon, or the Painted Madness box, or the Painted Dragon collection, those are all going to give you even more things. And then the mystical pack over here. That mystical pack is going to be another thing that you'll have to pay for, unless, by the way, you are a returning backer of Tanares Adventures. If you are a returning backer of Tanares Adventures, you can go ahead and check out the little thing over here. I think it's over here. It might be the next one. Oh, wait, next one. Where we are, if you look at this, is going to be the update from Tanares Adventures over here, and you can see over here, surprise gifts, your reward. You're basically going to get the mystical pack for the game, this thing over here, for free if you back Tanares Adventures. So that's another thing to take into account. You're getting another $29 benefit or bonus in addition to the potential day one freebie and the potential giveaway. You're going to be getting that as well, which brings us to the various, miniature related things over here. We have the gold dragon, which you're either going to pay or get. We have you can upgrade it to the painted model for $58. I think it's $58 is you pay an extra $29 to upgrade it. And then we're going to have the character pack over here. The character pack is going to be giving you a variety of characters to add to your Tanares gameplay. We're going to have the classes pack, which give you a whole bunch of classes over here: the Dragon Blade, Madwalker, Elementalist, and Redeemer. We're going to have the villain pack, which gives you a whole bunch of villains to, again, integrate. There's going to be all the board game adjacent content. We're going to have the maps and screens. The mystical pack, that's going to be the freebie we talked about, which gives you the Glorious Emperor, Saura the Mage, Zalia the Scholar, Harun the Scoundrel, Hurandin the Shaman, and the Imperial Tiger, some of which you may recognize from having the original Tanares Adventures. And then for $39, you have the GM-less Adventure Pack. This is the thing I'm interested in and very intrigued to dive into and to see whether this is a good bridge into the role-playing world. This is something to sit down instead of a book, which I don't have time to read anymore anyways. Maybe I have that. And then the Penumbral Pack, which is going to be part of that board game-esque adjacent, $49, giving you this gigantic guy who does not look like he haunts your nightmares in his spare time, not in the slightest, as well as the various penumbral fears, the pain, the anger, greed, envy. This really just reads like a bad Sunday afternoon reading of my feelings and emotional state. And then we have the Scenario Pack for $49 over here, giving you all of these over here, just giving you terrain and various things to incorporate into your game. And then we start sliding into the board game adjacent, all these things that you'll be familiar with if you are someone that backed Tanares Adventures. Now, there's tons of, if you're wary of any of the painting going on here, there's tons of content out there in terms of seeing what the unboxed painted miniatures look like. Tanares Adventures Wave 1 has started actually shipping, speaking of which, I once again, despite consistently warning people to not choose a single wave, I once again managed to choose single wave shipping on my copy of Tanares Adventures, so I am sadly waiting for everything to arrive, hence the lack of any unboxings on my channel for now, although we'll fix that when Wave 2 does show up. But that's neither here nor there, just, mistakes were made, and we move on confidently from there. But yeah, there's lots of unboxing content in terms of if you want to see the various painted dragons or any of that stuff that's shipped in Wave 1 from Tanares Adventures. And that's going to be a whole lot of information about the campaign, the pledge levels, the options, and we start just drifting into Tanares Adventures over here. And again, this was, to a certain extent, more heavily focused on the board game side of things than the RPG side of things, just because that's where I'm looking. I am a board gamer who wants more content for my Tanares Adventures, while also being tempted by maybe now's a time or an opportunity to dive into the world of RPGs, which brings us to the should you back it. And this is a complicated one, because there's multiple different audiences going on here. There's going to be the board game audience, the RPG audience, and then the I want it both audience. And so to just focus on the RPG audience first, because it's a little easier. In terms of resale value, any of that, I don't know the RPG landscape. I don't know what sells well. I don't feel confident saying anything you should or shouldn't back it, all of that. In terms of personal interest, I mean, this is going to be more 5e content. Do you need more 5e content? Do you want more 5e content? Are you particularly pulled in by these classes, by what Tanares is doing or adding to your world? Did you maybe just back Avatar Legends and you don't need more stuff because you're already going to be overwhelmed with what you have, what you're getting, and maybe you don't need any of this? All those things are questions you're going to have to ask yourself as far as your personal interest level. Again, I'm more of a board game person. I understand the drives, the appeals as to why I might want another board game, even when I'm not playing the ones I have. I understand what goes into those decisions, versus for RPG, for 5e, I'm not pulled in by that landscape or universe just yet, and so I'm still fairly in control of what I choose to do and spend my money on there. As far as the board game side of things, that's where it's going to get a little trickier. Now let's focus on what you should be getting for yourself in terms of content to begin with. And I've already seen people frustrated by the fact that there's another, $180 worth of content out here to add to your Tanares Adventures when you haven't even had the chance to experience Tanares Adventures, and you're being tempted with another $180. It feels like it just won't end. And it won't, by the way. I just did a video recently on second editions and Kickstarters, and the idea that companies are running, they're running these life cycles. It could be another game or it could be more content for a game, but as long as they're trying to stay in business, they have to make the products they love. And fortunately, they are the products they love, at least in most cases. But nonetheless, that doesn't mean you should necessarily get it. If you haven't experienced Tanares Adventures, you don't necessarily need this content. In fact, forget that. Even if you will or have experienced Tanares Adventures, it doesn't really matter. This is way more content than you will ever need for the game, unless you are playing it not 24/7, but if you're playing Tanares, if you're playing Arena a lot, if it's one of your most played games, then sure, by all means, get all the content. But if you're not, then this is just more stuff, more characters you won't play, because the amount of content you already have between Arena and Tanares is a ton. This is the week of just overloading people with more stuff for the games that they love, games that they're already not experiencing the stuff they love. Black Rose Wars is another example where you have just more and more and more. And Tanares as well is an example of more and more and more. Now, I'm not saying don't get it, but if you're looking for excuses to walk away, if you're looking for excuses not to get it, you absolutely do not need to get it. Your world is going to have plenty of content in it already. This is not what you need to fully flesh it out. As far as whether you will get it or won't get it, it's a different conversation entirely, because speaking for myself, my love for Black Rose Wars is high, but my love for Arena is much higher. I think Arena is such a fun experience that I may go ahead and get this stuff anyway, even though I don't need it, even though I won't be experiencing all of it. But I like being a completionist around the things that I love, so both things are true. If you want it, I understand why, but you also absolutely don't need it. As far as will it hold its value or not, it will. I mean, this stuff, Tanares Adventures Arena the Contest, so far has historically held its value. It is a well-loved game. It is a well-rated game, and this is going to be more content that people are going to irrationally and unnecessarily seek out to complete and fully flesh out their Arena the Contest experience if they miss this Kickstarter. Granted, we have day one, 4,657 people that won't have missed this Kickstarter, but there will still always be others who do. And so it'll hold its value, but it doesn't mean you'll need it. Now, before we wrap up, because this is usually the part where I wrap up, but I also just realized I didn't cover the stretch goals, so let's go ahead briefly over there and cover what we've unlocked already, and that's only going to add as we go through it. Starting with 50k over here, we have an extra Pain miniature villain, we have 3 new monsters, we have a Spider miniature, more open world quests, an extra Greed miniature, the Tower miniature, the extra Exterius miniature, more open world quests, the Cleric subclass Chaos Domain, new campaign for Tanares Adventures, and that's where we are so far, but it's only going to, oh no, I'm wrong, we're going to keep going. I forgot that they do this. I remember this from the last campaign. They have these chapters, and then you think it's over, but you keep scrolling through it. We have a new campaign, week 1 quest, we have week 2 quests, week 3 quests, week 4 quests, just like lots of week quests over here. More quests, more. That's chapter 2 unlocked. We have a Tombstone miniature, the extra Tower miniature, the extra Tombstone miniature, the extra Tower miniature, more Tombstones, Towers, escape routes, all of that. And that's where we get to chapter 3, all done. And it looks like we're heading into chapter 4, although I can't tell if there's a missing graphic here. It's always a little confusing, but we'll see soon enough. That is everything for Tanares RPG. A whole lot of content to explore, a whole lot of options to make, and with 30 days left to go, that's a lot of time for this campaign to develop. We're going to see that mid-campaign stall, especially with such an early bird, such a strong early bird. You're going to see that mid-campaign stall as we go through, people debating whether to keep their pledges and people having just enough of a less incentive to jump in with that early bird gone. But it still will rise. I think this will hit 2 million by the time it's done, even with the stall. And 30 days to go. So we'll see how things go. There may well be another full video at the end, depending on the stretch goals, depending on what's revealed as we go through it. But we'll see. Either way, if nothing else, you can make sure to subscribe to the channel, where every Monday or most Mondays I do a to back or not to back, covering all the Kickstarters, where at the very least there'll be updates of this campaign there. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and I hope you have a good one.